Welcome everyone to This Week in Crypto with CoinRoutes. It is Friday, December 8th, 2023, and we had an interesting week. Well, let's start with the most interesting part, what's got us all happy, and the markets. Carl.
Thanks, Dave. So this week in crypto, we have Bitcoin grinding higher, leading the pack, with the majors especially, up 10%. Ethereum up 7.5%. The dollar up just 1%. Gold and other precious metals sold off big time after that big week last week. Gold down 6%, silver down 10%. Tech stocks in the S&P remain relatively flat, and Solana, also up 15%. So good news for crypto. The S&P and whatnot flat, but great week for crypto.
One thing to note too is the FBTC pair caught a little bit of a rebound too, which was interesting. Yesterday we saw Ethereum outperforming Bitcoin.
Big time.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, in the week you can't tell because Ethereum, Bitcoin performed much better last Friday than Ethereum did, and Ethereum didn't quite catch up all the way, but we were at, was it 5.5 on the ratio, 0.055 on the ratio. It went down as low as 0.5 even and rebounded back to 0.54, so about 80% retracement of the big Bitcoin outperformance. The more interesting one, though, fun one, was, my friend Scott Melker likes to say this, gold, after the rally that we were talking about last week, had the Kembe Mutombo moment. The no, it got rejected right at the trend line at the all-time high. It got smacked back down. There are plenty of people out there in the universe who think that is a absolute evidence of manipulation. I am not saying that is true. I've never been one of those tinfoil hat guys. There are a lot of people who believe that gold is often manipulated by people selling futures when they have no intention to deliver. Bitcoin, they're never going to be able to do that. And that's kind of important because you always have to be able to deliver or at least settle. And that kind of matters. So
it's interesting, Bitcoin having such a crazy week, and then gold, getting its face ripped off. So I mean, just something to look out for is that crypto is doing really well, and precious metals not so much.
It's the biggest news story of the week, the one we're going to talk about now, and it's one that's hard for me not to get angry about, and frankly, you guys should be madder than me. With what I will call the Liz and Jamie show. Elizabeth Warren, head of the banking committee in the Senate, had hearings, and then Jamie Dimon coming in to do her dirty work with her. I'm going to start with Liz because I tweeted something about what she said. She outdid herself. There were 5 Pinocchio level lies that she told before introducing Jamie, and I want to get the guy's reaction. But the first one she said was that crypto is only used for terrorists, despite the fact that she was talking about Bitcoin. Despite the fact that Hamas told their donors don't use it because it's too easy to trace and you'll get caught. So that's lie number 1. Lie number 2, it's only used for criminal enterprises. The FBI tells anyone who will listen, anyone, that they would rather the bad guys use Bitcoin. Every time. Because they can catch them. They've caught child pornographers. They've caught human traffickers. They've caught drug rings. I don't understand where she's getting her facts. Well, she's not getting facts, she's just making them up. But the third one, which was the biggest whopper I think ever told, was that North Korea is using Bitcoin to pay for half of their nuclear weapons program. And what forensics people who've done forensic accounting of this have figured out is that North Korea, all their hacking on all cyber crimes equates to about half of what their nuclear budget was. Now, first of all, it doesn't mean it was used for it. Second of all, it's all cybercrime. It's not just what they do in crypto. And the reality is, and here's what really has me grinding my gears, to use a Peter Griffin word, is that one of the reasons they are so successful, the Lazarus Group, at hacking crypto exchanges is because we have not allowed U.S. regulation to house crypto. So all of the money is offshore in an unregulated vehicles. So we have made it easier for that to happen. And so her argument about we should ban it even more, drive it even more offshore, is completely counterproductive. But yet that's what she said. Okay, that's my rant. But then she teed up Jamie Dimon. And Jamie Dimon says, if I were in government, I would ban crypto.
Unbelievable. Look, Jamie Dimon making those comments is like a CD manufacturing company saying, let's ban Napster, or let's ban Spotify.
Or let's ban Apple Music.
Or let's ban, or like a pager company saying, let's stop letting emails go through. It's like, obviously, if I was a big bank, I'd be saying the exact same thing. What is the biggest threat to a bank? It's something like Bitcoin and what crypto provides. But, instead of rejecting it and calling out for a ban, if I were, obviously I'm not, but if I were in his situation, I might be trying to accept it and embrace it. right? And try and take a transaction fee and support the tech rather than ban it and call for. But what it tells me is that these guys are not either that smart, which I can't imagine is true, or they just want to delay the process as long as possible to remain in power while they have it, because Bitcoin's inevitable.
Well,
crypto is inevitable.
To quote something Mike Novogratz tweeted on Twitter, which I thought was very interesting, is that over the past 20 years, JP Morgan has paid over $38 billion in fines to the US government.
Yeah.
Now, thinking about that, right, the banking system isn't perfect. There's flaws with it. And that's not even to touch on the utility or the use case of Bitcoin, purely just the legal aspect of it. The banking system has had its faults. But they're passing the torch to Bitcoin in terms of blame. And it sounds like they're just grasping for air at this point. But unfortunately, it's the country we live in. So innovation's being driven offshore, and it's just hindering growth in the U.S. overall.
Now, the positive side of this is a couple friends of mine on Twitter independent people observed that this feels like a last gasp. It feels like they know that this stuff is inevitable. And they're just trying to push through legislation to give them more power. And I want to make one point. So they're basically trying to put through this new bill, which the idea is to be able to crack down better against terrorist financing. Now, honestly, I have no problem. In fact, wholeheartedly support cracking down on terrorist financing, but not to ban the technology that's used. In fact, technology that's easier to trace. I'd rather that bad guys use stuff that's easier to catch them with. And so that is a very important point. But the second important point is, at the same time, one of the other stories this week is CZ from Binance is being told he has to stay in the United States before sentencing. He can't go back to Dubai. Now, why do I care about this? Honestly, I care for him. Whatever. I'm sure he's going to be fine. He's a multi-billionaire. But the truth of the matter is, it proves, since he was convicted or had to plead guilty to the Bank Secrecy Act, one has to ask yourself the question, well, wait a minute, didn't we just get the single largest player in all of crypto with existing rules? Right? Didn't we? Well, why do we need changes? And if we do, why do we need more power to the government? Because we all know what happens when you give the government more power.
Yeah.
Well, I think in a lot of ways, Bitcoin stands for a lot of what the U.S. government was founded on in the early days, right? Freedom, the pursuit of happiness. Imagine you were born in El Salvador, or a country where financial freedom is hard to come by, right? Your currency is overinflated, there's monetary issues in your system. Bitcoin provides salvation to a lot of these people. And to see the U.S. government taking an opposing standpoint to it, it almost seems a bit hypocritical.
Yeah.
Oh, it's way more than that. There's higher minority participation in Bitcoin and crypto than in equities. Full stop. And not by a small amount. There is more interest among the youth of this world, and certainly in the United States, than in equities. And the fact is, it is much more egalitarian, much more open access, much more understandable. And yet they keep throwing up roadblocks to it. That is bad. And it really is one of those things that if you're on Twitter and you look at it, if you're a progressive, you should be rebelling against these people. You should be saying, Elizabeth Warren, you're excommunicated from the Church of Actual Progress. But will it happen? Probably not. People in Massachusetts probably will elect her again, and she'll be there for however knows. Someone said this morning on a podcast I was listening to that she may be the last remaining person in the anti-crypto army at some point, but she'll probably be there until the day she dies.
Look, when I bought my first Bitcoin back in 2017 or whatever, it felt like a rebellious act. I don't know against who or what. Maybe it was the banks, maybe it was the government, but it felt like this place I could go to and kind of stick my middle finger up to the man. I don't know what it was, but this is kind of what Bitcoin stands for. Everyone knows that, but this is what Bitcoin is all about. And that's why we see it grinding higher and gaining steam. Obviously we've got things like the ETF and the halving event that typically in the past have sparked a bull market. But yeah, the government cracking down has typically made the price go up. And so that's why I'm not that pissed about it all.
Yeah, I'm more aggravated because I want to see the U.S. lead the world, not follow the world.
Yeah.
But look, here at CoinRoutes, at this point, we're multinational, and we have most of our customers are overseas. We'll do what we'll do. But the reality is from a market's perspective, it looks like Bitcoin is achieving critical mass before our eyes, and that matters. But there's another couple of news stories this week that are interesting. The next one is kind of, people don't think it's important, but I kind of do, and that is Societe Generale launched the very first world stablecoin denominated in euro, not dollars, but the first stablecoin backed and run by a major money center bank, being Societe Generale, listed on Bitstamp. Now, will it matter a lot? I don't know. You know, maybe our partners at Bitvavo, who's the largest European euro-based exchange, you know, will care about this, and that'd be good. But the truth is it shows the rest of the world's making progress. It also shows that there are going to be competitors to the dollar if we don't watch ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very important. And also, a video I showed you earlier this week, Coinbase Wallet just released a way to actually text people crypto.
Like Apple Pay.
Like in Apple Pay, the same way you would Apple Pay someone. And that further breaks down the barrier of adoption, in my opinion, and especially for boomers, no offense. I know you're technically savvy, but some others aren't necessarily in the same boat. It's
Why, thank you, kind sir.
It's complicated to send crypto, and this is just a step in the right direction in terms of letting the mass people adopt it and use it on a daily basis.
Definitely.
Yeah. Assuming I can figure out the computer to get the next story. The other thing that's worth noting this week is inflows to crypto funds. And believe it or not, lobbying spend by crypto firms are both at 2-year highs. Actually, in the case of lobbying, it's all-time highs. Now, those numbers are small. Crypto lobbying is nothing. I mean, compared to like any pharmaceutical company on a Tuesday probably spends more than crypto spends like for a year, because Big Pharma, that's one of their biggest line items, is to lobby the government. Talk about that forever. But the fact is, crypto is getting organized. And the message over-punches its weight because it resonates with young people. And so we'll see what happens in 2024, but I have a sneaking suspicion that Jamie Dimon saying that I would ban crypto if I were in control of government effectively ended any presidential ambitions he had before he started. Because he literally pissed off 30 to 40% of voters. Yeah, pretty hard to win when you do that. And I don't know if there's anything coming back from that, because that will be, there's already been some of the best internet songs ever done about that. Right, there's one out there, and you can all see it, which talked about the incredible amount of fines they paid, the 20 kilos of cocaine that
was found on the cargo ship.
Found on a cargo ship that J.P. Morgan owns. It is a body slam after body slam. I don't know if it's copyright material, so I won't talk about it, but it's been interesting. And the last story for the week is another piece of happy news, is Do Kwon, our favorite pump and dumper who started it all in 2022 with Terra Luna, is going to get extradited to the United States. All I can say is, welcome, Do. I hope you enjoy the U.S. justice system.
Stay a while.
Stay a while.
So a question I wanted to bring up on this episode with you guys is, people talk a lot about the bull market, right? What are your guys' personal definitions of a bull market? Do you think the ETF sparks it? And what does that look like? And secondary to that, do you think this follows suit in a similar pump and dump fashion as the other two bull markets has shown? Or do you think there's more staying power this time?
Go ahead.
Well, the most important thing about a bull market is when it's starting, for the first third of that bull market, in all likelihood, in most cases it could be longer, people don't believe it's a bull market. So I think we're in one. I think we are climbing the wall of worry. I mean, Bitcoin is just reestablished, literally just reestablished, the bottom end of the trading range before Terra Luna. So think about that. In that period of time, the hash rate in the Bitcoin network has doubled. It hasn't gone up by 10%, it's up by 100%. So if you ask yourself, okay, are we at anything close to euphoria? No. In fact, the math says that euphoria would set in at double the last all-time high, which would take you to 120,000. We're at 44. So no, we are not even close to euphoria. Now that's backed up by other data. On CoinRoutes, you can see on all of the, we have various measures of euphoria. So you can measure the funding rates on perpetual swaps. You can measure put-call ratios. You can measure the premium rates of futures, etc. The CME future, which I was yelling about the last 2 weeks, has settled into a nice range of between 90 and 120 basis points. Now, yeah, that's double what actual math says it should be on pure interest rates, but nothing close to the 200 basis points that we saw in the 2 previous weeks early in the rally. So this is a climb the wall of worry rally. I believe that is indicative of something more sustainable. So that's my answer to your question.
Yeah, I mean, by definition, higher highs, lower, or higher highs, higher lows, right? We're 140% off the low of the year, and we're 60% of the way to the high, right? What that we saw in 21 and 22. So, I mean, things are looking good. I agree with Dave. We're not, sentiment on any, social media is not euphoric yet. It's more denial at this point, right? More than anything. And so, yeah, I mean, all signs are leading in the right direction. We want to see a strong close into the end of the year and then move from there, right?
Yeah.
The first couple of weeks are really important in terms of the ETF approval, and I think a lot of people are kind of remaining patient until then.
I mean, I think that there's a couple other things to think about. Thing number one is Bitcoin's asymmetric return profile. Boy, that sounds like a geek term, so let's make it simple for you. Bitcoin is either going to make it to digital gold or not. Bitcoin's market cap at digital gold status is north of 10 times its current price. Gold, as a whole, we believe to be manipulated down from what it should be. It used to represent 100% of monetary aggregates. It now represents around 7% of monetary aggregates. So Bitcoin has well to run beyond digital gold status. A 10x is a large number for a big asset. And when you're talking about 10 to 20x, it means that, even if let's say for the sake of argument, I'm right, and fair or euphoria sets in at 120,000. I just told you that that's less than a third of what its price would be if it reached some sort of equilibrium like gold. So honestly, when you look at cycles, I don't know if it's this cycle, the next cycle, the cycle after that it gets there. But it's hard to see how cycles are going to work the same way. At the same time, volatility is baked in the cake. As long as you have the most powerful person in the Senate talking about getting people to talk about banning Bitcoin, there's going to be people who are going to think, oh my God, let's sell it. And so all this stuff can happen. So that's thing number one. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, it's interesting. Something I like to be bearish and like shorting the market. So something I've noticed something I've noticed this time is that Bitcoin hasn't seen a big retracement yet. Is it coming? I don't know, but it begs the question. I think there is going to come a time within the next couple of months we see a leverage washout of some kind.
Sure.
Right? Of some kind, maybe 10, 20%.
You're wrong. It's called up only. You ever heard about it?
No.
It's a great time to be alive.
Jacob's right. I just think the 20% retracement happens when we get toward the all-time high.
Yeah.
I think we get between 55 and 65. It wouldn't remotely surprise me to see it go from 57 back down to 42. That would not shock me.
I mean, look at what just happened with gold too. I mean, it taps the third time it's tapped 2,100 and boom, right down.
So I would not be surprised to see that. Now, here's the funny part. We're sitting here at 44 today. Imagine a world where Bitcoin goes from 44 to 64 and back to 44. Today, everyone is happy, smiling, whatever. When it gets down to 44 after tapping 64, everyone's going to be like, oh my God, they're going to look like the people on the roller coaster. They're going to look like other boomers on a roller coaster. Oh my God, what's going on? That's going to be the issue. But all kidding aside, the real question is, where is all this stuff going? And when you look at altcoins, you see all sorts of interesting things. There are some that I still can't explain. Solana is one that I can. You mentioned it, and I gave a bit, when I heard that I saw Solana breaching 70 today, I gave a woohoo, a Homer Simpson kind of wave, because I had bought Solana like an idiot in the 90s, and then like slightly less of an idiot said, you know what, I'm not dollar cost averaging, but I'm going to buy a little bit more at 15 because in between 14 and 15 just to make my average better. And I brought my average cost into the 70s, so I'm almost there.
It's funny, Jacob's father and my grandma won't talk to me anymore because I told her to buy Solana at $200.
I hope,
Gigi, soon, I promise.
That's going to be a great I told you so.
But the real funny part about it is I have zero interest in selling. Absolutely zero. The fact that I'm back, close to break even is a woohoo moment, but it's a woohoo moment that it doesn't matter because I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I don't know if the technology is what people are saying it is, but if it's right, then selling it there is like the same people who sold Amazon, who bought Amazon at $95, sold it or didn't sell it, bought a little bit more at $9, and when it got back to like 80, sold it. And then of course it's in the thousands now. So you understand. I don't know if Solana's going to be like that. God knows. Do your own research. Do not take this as investment advice for sure. But personally, the agitation I would feel if Solana became the backbone of the interest rate swap market or some other massive multi-trillion-dollar market, I could never forgive myself for selling my small little stake. So I'm going to hold it.
Well, something I noticed last cycle might be also important to talk about was I associate euphoria with stupidity, as a lot of other traders do, and the NFT fad, right? I get the use case of NFTs. I see how the technology is relevant and will be in place moving forward. But when people are buying digital JPEGs for millions of dollars and flipping them and making 30 grand overnight for selling an online picture, right? We haven't seen that level of capital inflow yet. So when people ask me, is it too late? Should I wait to buy it? DCA in, be smart. This is not investment advice, but I do believe this rally has legs, and I don't think we're anywhere close to terminal velocity yet.
Well, thankfully I didn't buy any Ether Rocks.
Yeah.
That was the one I absolutely couldn't understand. I mean, Pudgy Penguins, whatever, Pepe the Frog, I don't know. I'll admit, I'm a boomer. I don't understand cartoon JPEGs. I do understand store of value, though. I do understand tech. And I think there's a lot here. So, any final words?
Predictions, possibly, next week?
Where are we next week at this time? Let's talk about it.
I think we're higher.
Of course you do.
I think look, at varying times of my career, people will tell you, people call me a perma bear. It depends on what's going on. I just don't see the speculative excess that would let me think we're at the top, and I wouldn't be surprised. I think that there are a lot of people who are trying to buy stuff right now, and there just isn't a lot of liquidity to buy. So, just even the fact that we reclaimed 44,000, today, it just doesn't feel they can knock it down. And it feels very strongly to me like there's a real chance of a Santa Claus rally here. It may not be like 2019.
No, I'm with you, totally. I think it's same place or higher. I mean, you just look at what happens every time Bitcoin drops a couple $100, and the spot bidding is just off the charts. Coming in the ETFs, I think people probably get washed out a week or two before, if anything. Right, that's when it happens. Not right now. I'd say it gets pushed higher before.
Well, I want to comment on that. Well, a lot of people have talked about the ETF. So when the spot ETFs are approved, assuming that it happens on the 10th of January or whatever, in the following week or two after that, I would imagine a lot of speculators who are buying now and have bought will get impatient and say, why isn't it rocketing higher? Because those money flows take time. And so it wouldn't surprise me to see a sell the news dip only for the next 3 or 4 months as the marketing teams from the 12 or 10 organizations get flying for those shorts to get their nuts squeezed, as we would say on Wall Street. But I don't think that a sell the news dip is difficult to imagine. The difference is it's not the same as when the futures got approved. Because remember, at the time the futures got approved, it was the only way to short Bitcoin. Basically, that was it. Well, there's plenty of ways to short Bitcoin now. So I don't think the ETF approval is going to improve or give anyone any impetus to short, but I do think that there's a possibility of a small retracement or a sell the news dip.
Sure.
I like that take. I think we see a huge sell-off on the ETF release. I like to counter trade the public. That's usually the right trade to make.
So Grizzly Adams Tober has spoken.
I'm gonna put a number on Bitcoin this episode or next episode next week. 47,750. Not financial advice.
Well, if this were the Price is Right, you would have taken my number, so I don't know what to say. I actually would think next week we're probably still in the under 46, between 44 and 46 range. We're going to stay right where we are. I think the week after that, as things start progressing, we might see something more, but I just think there's one pop. I don't know when it's going to be.
No, unless something crazy happens, Bitcoin probably stays where it is and alts catch up, because alts have not caught up.
You think money trickles down?
Yeah, as it does.
We shall see.
Awesome.
Well, anyway, thanks, guys.
Smash that subscribe button.
right, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Also, drop some topics you want us to cover. If there's a coin you want us to cover, a project you want us to comment on, please feel free. We'll catch you guys next week. Thanks.
Tax avoidance, criminals, drug traffickers, anti-money laundering, tax avoidance.
20 times of cocaine. Now that's what I call trafficking. On a boat you owe. Jesus fucking Christ, bro.
Criminals, drug traffickers, anti-money laundering, tax avoidance.